Johnson, and this is Focus on Liberia. Hit it! From Cape Mount to Cape Palmer, mountain back to Atlantic Ocean, Obomi Hills to Bokonjre, to educate, elevate, and promote. Talking about home affairs, hey, in diaspora, current affairs, reliable information, history, talking about culture, politics, education, entertainment, business, sports, advertisement, articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. From Monday to Sunday.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to FOL Justice Forum on Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jar, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. Ever since the announcement of the coming of War Crimes Court to Liberia, there has been debate in all cycles concerning the jurisdictions, the statutes of limitation, the money to do it, and all the 9 years, reconciliation, retributive justice versus punitive justice, and all the 9 years. Tonight, we've put together a team of lawyers and a researcher to talk about the War Crimes Court in Liberia. Before I introduce them, let me welcome my co-host, Mr. Anthony Sie. His friends call him Muna Sie. I call him the political bulldog. Mr. Sie, welcome to the show.
Dennis, it's good to be here. War Crime Court, what a great subject. Will it happen? Let's talk.
And for the sake of tonight's conversation, I want us to limit it to War Crimes Code. We'll take the Economic Crimes Code out just so that we can be laser focused on War Crimes Code. Let me welcome Attorney Wanda Konyene Freeman. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
And let me also welcome Attorney James N. Jensen. He's the CEO of 2A Radio TV. Welcome, sir.
Well, it's a pleasure to be on your show once again, and a joy to sit with good men. I'm wondering why you can't be with me on this show. But it's important that we all begin to look at War Crime Code, the significance of having a War Crime Code, the impact of some of the decisions that will be taken thereafter, whether that can lay a clear foundation for Liberia. So again, we are here, we'll be putting forth our ideas and see how our people, the decision makers in the country, whether they're listening to us and see whether they can take some of these discussions very seriously and add to whatever they have to do for the country to get better.
Thank you, sir. Let me welcome joining us from the UK, Dr. Fidel C.T. Budi. Dr. Budi, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Dennis. It's a pleasure being here.
And Fidel has been on the show before and be on other platforms, but this is first time on FOL Justice Forum, the only non-lawyer guest. So you will know that he got something that we want. Welcome, sir. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Let me welcome Councillor Frederick Jewe. He's FOL legal analyst. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Dennis. This is a very interesting topic. Liberian been sitting and waiting for a while. Let's see whether the war crime code will be established since Mrs. Salif and Mr. Weir did not do anything about it.
We want to welcome all our viewers from across the globe. This is Focus on Liberia. This is the FOL Justice Forum. We want to say welcome, welcome, and welcome. We want to discuss the War Crime Court. And I want us to start like this. Let me start with Councillor J. When we'll go down the line. What does a War Crime Court mean? What does it represent? And what are some of the issues that can bring about a war crimes court?
So this grows mostly out of the Rome Statute, the responsibility during wartime, personal responsibility, as well as commander responsibility, and what really factually occurred during a period of war. Did the faction leaders, soldiers, associates lay by the rules that govern the affairs of war? In the absence of, in the case of the Liberian situation, there are a lot of complaints that the warring factions from the TRC report were engaged in extrajudicial execution of people, in some cases, sexual enslavement, torture, and murder, for example. So a war crime court is intended to ensure that justice is done, and those who may have reason to quarrel with the way the war was conducted may have the case before the court. Thank God we had the TRC hearing, and a lot of Liberians were named. And so the issue of the War Crime Court is an issue that needs to address justice.
Thank you. Anthony Freeman, how does a war crime court normally start, or how should it start? Is it automatic? Is it so in a regular case, if I did something wrong, somebody will sue me and I go to court, right? But for a war crime, how does it start? And does it have statute of limitation?
Normally, from time immemorial, they have laws of war. And so even in war, there is presumed to be laws. And so those laws have to be adhered to. And when they are not, it can be a basis for a post-war or accountability. In modern times, the origin will take you back to World War II, the Nuremberg trials. We set the basis for other similar situations, that there has to be accountability for people who may have violated the laws of war. And then international humanitarian law grew out of that. And people expect that there are certain humanitarian laws and principles that you have to adhere to even while you are fighting war. And if you don't, it can be the basis for accountability after the war. So in a sense, that's the origin of it, and in the Liberian case, of course, you can see that there were a lot of these laws that were violated, and that's why there is a constant cry for accountability.
But who files that? Who can start it? Is it the people? Is it people looking outside? Is it international people? How does it get started?
Well, normally, if you go back in history, like in the case of I was mentioning Nazi Germany, if the victors decided that there has to be accountability, but as it was copied, by other areas where there were wartime atrocities, it was not only the victors, but it became a cry by the international community that, look, we have established what should I say, a pattern here, or a precedent that we will not allow people to do anything and everything in the name of war. So in that basis, there has to be accountability. But in most instances, there is significant part to be played by the country in which those atrocities were concerned, because it's kind of difficult to really take off if the country doesn't assent to it. Because if you follow international law, almost all the laws that they will require you to adhere to is something that you most likely have agreed to.
Right.
Like for now, the International Criminal Court, the US is not a party to it, and Russia is not a party to it. And so as a result, the US can do pretty much what they want in places where they want, and they are highly held to account, even though they use that same RCC statute to hold other people to account. Well, that's how it looks like when you are a superpower. But if you're a small nation like Liberia, you don't get to say what international law is.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but the country that was affected has a huge part to play in terms of whether or not there is going to be accountability.
Thank you. Attorney Jensen, let me come to you on this one because of war crimes code and because they are laws, right? But the things that happen during war, like rape, murder, looting, and all these different things, these are also punishable under the laws of the country. So how do we distinguish which one goes to war crime code and which one we use our local or our national laws to prosecute?
Well, firstly, let me talk about the failure of the Liberian government to set a stage for a war crime code. There should be a legal framework that should allow a particular jurisdiction to enhance the idea of trying to bring people to justice. I know the ICC was established in 2002, and the primary purpose was to try those who commit genocide, crimes against humanity, and all of these things cannot happen. Like you were talking about Russia and America. America is not a signatory to the statute, and as a result of that, you cannot say Americans can be tried in Liberia, right? They will have to be. America has, I mean, she's a superpower, so we can't talk much about that. But every country has a jurisdiction. So the first thing we ask ourselves is the national legislature, the legislative
Right.
body of the government, has a primary responsibility to have set the stage for a framework before even talking about establishing this code. So all that the government of Liberia is doing is relying on the international community to do the work. But there are other issues. Lawyers in Liberia, the jurisdiction of Liberia, they need to play the part.
And I was coming to the jurisdiction part. I was just laying the groundwork here. So
Right. So in short, Liberia has not set a framework for a war crime code. And as to those crimes, like someone committed rape during the war, someone killed somebody, I have said, and I hold that opinion, that even the death of Samuel Doe, the constitution and laws of Liberia can try those who committed crime against the sitting president. Why Liberia cannot do it is because we all believe that talking is more important than looking at the laws and taking the law as it is. The intent and purpose of the Constitution of Liberia is when you overthrow a sitting government, there's penalty. The Constitution says it. But we ignore that, and even the very people who committed the crimes, we say, no, come and rule. We elect in the public offices. So the question as to why are we leaving the laws of Liberia and calling for international partners to come to Liberia and do what they're supposed to do? The international partners only have interest when it comes to crimes committed against humanity. They want to ensure that what they have been doing in other places, that they implement those policies or programs when it comes to looking at the Rome Statute. But what is stopping Liberia? What is stopping the government and people of Liberia? The legislators, what are they doing? Like we heard that a few weeks ago, they signed, I don't know what is a resolution giving acquiescence to the establishment of a war crime code. What is the detail of a war crime code? How do the war crime code, Liberian government, what is the role of the judicial branch of government? all right? Because there must be international cooperation. How those things work, you must find how the domestic activity is taking place. Is it possible that they can start a war crime court and there will be an upheaval? You know, it's not just going to be an easy thing for you to say, okay, we will do it this way. But there must be, the legislative branch of government needed to look at the universal jurisdiction, look at laws.
So for our war, which of these crimes goes to our courts and which one go to the war crimes court based on your experience in the war?
But that's what I said. Right now, we do not have a framework, a legal framework, right? Except for the TRC that was the I creating the TRC, right? Other than that, we do not have any framework created by the Liberian government for the establishment of a war crime court, except the recent effort, and that even came about when the International Criminal Court practitioners got to Liberia and having discussions with the different actors. That's how we can, even the resolution that they passed, I think it's still at the Senate. So when the senators, and I don't think even that is detailed. I haven't seen it yet.
Thank you.
Right? So where we are right now is all about looking at the international partners. But in Liberia, what do we do for ourselves? What are the laws that we have created to say, well, these laws will go after those who have committed crimes?
Can I make some clarification?
And I will come to it because I know I will come to it like Councillor Jewel, because I could see that you want to come in, but let me go to.
I mean, I think that's the essence of that's the bit of the discussion. Let him come in. Maybe.
No, hold on. He will come in. Just keep your thought. I want to go to Dr. Booty here. So Dr. Booty, you follow these things from very well, and you write about them most of the time. So let me ask you this one: is at this point, because this war crime code thing has been in the wings for a long time, based on what you have followed so far, who is saying that war crime is coming? Is it because Alan White went to Liberia, or do you see any sign, or do you see any concrete step, like the president or the legislature, that people are taking that is making us to talk about war crimes code now? Or is it just wishful thinking, or we're just hoping?
Well, thank you for the question.
When is war crime coming?
Well, if I take the statement from my colleague, Mr. Gaiman, on Sunday, then this is just a smokescreen, right? So the government is under pressure with all of the issues that are going on, all of the missteps that the president is having. And they just think, oh, if we say we're going to bring economic crimes court, it'll distract people from the issues that are happening. Now, I don't believe that. I believe that they are actually thinking about doing it. I think the president and his government and those in the legislature are forgetting what happens when Liberia continue to bend backwards to follow the will and pleasure of the West. It normally leads to detrimental issues for Liberia. But I'm just going to make a quick point on what my esteemed colleague Anthony Jensen mentioned. There is a framework, right? So if you read the TRC report, the appendix has they've actually written what the law establishing the court should look like. So if you read the appendix, they've set it out. So basically, it's a template that's there that the legislature is expected to just grab that and discuss it and then pass it. My position on the establishment of a war and economic crimes court in Liberia is that we should, but it has to be forward-looking. So if you read my piece that I wrote in the Front Face Africa on Monday, I basically said that the Constitution, Article 21A, clearly states that we cannot create any law that is ex post facto, which means no law can look backwards in terms of punishing crimes that were not defined in any of our penal codes in Liberia. Now, murder, like Councillor Jensen said, is a crime that is already established, so we can try people for murder. Rape is a crime that is already established, so we can try people for rape. But to bring those things, those acts that were committed during the period of civil war under this banner of war crime, that is not defined in our national laws. The legislature is not allowed by the Constitution to go out and create a law that can look backward.
Thank you. Now, before I send it to Mr. CA, you can have your reactions and your.
But there's a point emanating from what
Let's go to Councillor Jewel first, and then we'll come to you. And then, Councillor Jewel, you had a point to make.
Yeah. So your question is what are the cases, or how many of these cases can go to the war crime court, and how many could remain in Liberia? And I'll just listen to Dr. Booty. He talks about Article 21 of the Constitution, and that you can't go back in order to indict and prosecute people. There are two different things here. One, the Liberia legal, to answer your question, Liberia legal system has something called statute of limitation. There are certain crimes that run first-degree felony, for example, other than murder. There are limitations when you come to court and when you file those actions. So, except for murder, maybe now armed robbery, the limitation is imposed on prosecuting anyone or someone who basically is alleged to have committed war crime during the civil war in Liberia under our legal system will not work. Beyond that, and just to answer Dr. Booty, is that the Liberia is a signatory to all of the international conventions, including the laws of war, the Rome Statute, and so forth. So war crime code becomes necessary to be able to prosecute those who committed crimes during the Civil War, because the limitations that are attached to the Liberian legal system will not be the limitation that attach to that of prosecuting war crime under international law. As long as Liberia has signed the instruments and crimes consistent with those instruments are said to be committed, they can be prosecuted, forgetting about Liberia's jurisdiction. Council Fanny Sherman tried to argue that way before, but again, you have to look at what is the limitation on war crimes and crimes against humanity. Is it limited by our constitution? No. Is it governed by, in part for murder, will it be holistically governed by the constitution and statutory laws of Liberia? It wouldn't. That's the reason why you have to go to a war crime court where the limitations will not apply under the Liberian legal system. Because if you were to take someone to court, for example, for rape, and if the statutory period for filing the case of rape is 10 years, you're done. After the number of years have come and gone, you can't prosecute that person. If you were to prosecute them for even property theft, which is also 10-year limitation, you cannot prosecute that person. So then the issue of prosecuting them based upon international law comes into play. So Liberia jurisdiction will not be, Liberia law will not, in a very subtle manner, will apply. And so you're not governed by the Article 21 of the Constitution.
I disagree, but I'll wait to be called upon to respond.
Yeah.
Okay. So the reason I disagree is what I said was not that these individuals cannot be tried outside of Liberia. I didn't say that, right? I said, and the way that, if you read the article that I wrote, I said the way that they're proposing setting up the court, so setting up a war crimes court in Liberia, will be inconsistent with Article 21A. However, if they set up a court, say if the United Nations got involved and said, look, we're going to set up a court for Liberia, like Anthony Freeman clearly stated, 1949 was the year that the Geneva Convention was signed. Article 3 of the Geneva Convention deals with unconventional wars, like civil wars and things like that. So all of these crimes will fall under Article 3 of the Geneva Convention. So I didn't say outside of Liberia they can't be tried. I'm talking about the way that they're speaking about it in Liberia is that, because initially someone said, oh, they're going to establish it in Ghana. And they said, no, we're establishing it on Liberian soil. That is where I'm coming at, that if they establish it on Liberian soil, under Liberian jurisdiction in terms of our laws, then it will be inconsistent in the way I've read Article 21A.
Thank you. Anthony Freeman, let me come to you. Must there always be a war crimes court or tribunal whenever crimes against humanity are committed during a war, be it a civil war?
Well, not necessarily. Like I said, if you go back to the origin of the war crimes code from the Nuremberg World War II days, it was the victors that were imposing the justice. Okay. But now we've graduated from that level and we are saying that there are laws and there are humanitarian laws that must be adhered to. But a key component of that is the people of the country. What do they want? Because I see it's almost impossible to set up a war crime code if the people in the country do not want it. And in the Liberian case, I see the Liberian population giving conflicting signals. And when I say conflicting signals, what I mean is they tell us in opinion polls that maybe 70-75% of Liberians want war crimes code, right? But in the same vein, they vote for Tomo Yaya Nameland, they vote for PYJ, they Baka form a coalition with PYJ, they vote for the coalition. So you can see a man forming a coalition with some of the main accused.
Anthony Freeman, if I may, so you are saying in opinion poll, overwhelmingly Liberians in the majority are saying we want a war crime court, but then they elected somebody who is being accused or alleged to have committed war crimes code, right?
Yeah.
I don't see the conflict that this is a citizen from their country who they are electing. They are not saying that because we elected this person, the person should not be persecuted.
Correct.
Now,
it's a conflict. There's a conflict.
Yeah,
there's a conflict, right?
You answer my question. My next question is: you are saying,
but I want to point out a conflict.
Okay.
You want a war crime code, but you elect a government by a structure that is diametrically opposed to the establishment of the court. So your desire for this code is in opposition to what you have used your vote to bring into being. And that's why I feel the war crime code will be very difficult in Liberia because as we speak, we don't know what the Liberian people really, really want. And if you look at our Senate, a whole bunch of these, like some of the accused are dead. So how are they going to do it? Because you need the House to agree, you need the Senate to agree, and you need the President to agree.
Attorney Freeman, I got your point there. If, say, the opinion poll were the decision on behalf of the country that we should have war crime courts, that decision is sent over to the executive branch of government to enforce it. Why would the executive branch of government say, well, I'm not going to enforce it because he elected somebody who allegedly committed war crime code? I don't see the conflict about. Let me come to my other question, please. Let's leave it. You said that crimes against humanity must have been committed, and Liberia is honoring this Rome Statute, the international instrument, Liberia signatory, but it is Liberia as a nation or its people that decide whether or not they want crime code, even though crimes against humanity have been committed. So my question now is, then what is the essence of this signatory anyway? Because you are saying that though you sign on to it, you can say, no, that's not important. We don't want it. Please.
The first correction is as regard the RCC, it would be crimes committed after the passage, not before. So it won't be applicable to anything that occurred before. So let's assume if some of the crimes we are talking about occur prior to the establishment of the Rome Statute, then they don't apply.
Right.
The other thing I want to stress is the idea that you have a war crime code in that country without the House agreeing, the Senate and the President signing onto it is very, very slim. Because war crime code is not something that is imposed. It has to be agreed by the leaders of the country that this is what we want. And if the leaders cannot collectively agree, I suppose we can put it in a referendum, but not opinion poll, because opinion poll, the country leader don't act on opinion poll. But if you put it in a referendum and put it to the people, I can tell you what, there is nobody in Liberia that can stop it if it goes through the referendum.
Thank you.
But if you now go by way of opinion poll, or you go by statute, then Prince Johnson can create stumbling block in the Senate, and all kinds of people can create stumbling blocks. So if you really want it, Put it to a referendum. Let
Thank you.
the 2 million voting population in Liberia decide what they want.
Why
Councillor Jewel, let me come to you. Councillor Jewel, the war crime code now that many of us have expressed that we want and that is needed for Liberia. Must the code be created by law through the national legislature before we can have the kind of tribunal we're talking about? In other words, what should be the process of creating that code for it to be legal and binding on Liberians?
So to answer your question, the Liberian legislature need to create a code, a war crime code. In fact, because the war crime code and the crimes that are being prosecuted before that court is international in nature and character, the Liberian legislature can either pass an act having a UN-backed court with international character and flavor, instead of saying, the court needs to be established consistent with our laws. It again, because we're talking about international issues, we're talking about international law, which Liberia is a signatory to. Whether the legislature enact a law or not, with a UN back, the president of Liberia has already started, could request the UN to set up a UN-backed war crime court, employing all of the international law provisions to ensure that that court function. Again, because of its international character and nature, the establishment of the court will not be in conflict with Liberia Constitution, because Liberia has already signed onto the instrument. Why? And Liberia does not need a referendum. I think that's a waste of time to go to find what from people when, in fact, at the end of the day, Liberia elected its officials, the president, members of the House, the Senate. If by their action, a request is made to the international community to establish a war crime court, there is no conflict. There is no reason. You're not going back to go get approval from the Liberian people by way of referendum. I think people who committed war crime, people who are pretty much guilty of what they did during the Civil War, are looking for all the loopholes. In fact, I heard Mr. Prince Johnson saying there is an immunity act passed sometime in Liberia that gave all of the war laws immunity. No, when the court is settled, established.
You were talking about the CPA, the Comprehensive Peace Agreement from Accra.
No. You were talking about in the Liberian House and Senate, there was a statute passed that immuned all of those who participated in the war, including him, from being prosecuted anywhere. The other thing that I wanted to address is that if the government Liberia requests the UN to settle the court, and because of limitation in the Liberian law, those cases that are war crime in nature will go to the war crime court. Because if you went before the end of the Liberian court, there would be a motion filed to dismiss the matter on ground that we are the jurisdiction or out of the statutory period of time. So being international in nature, the war crime court will be the best place to go, and not through our court system.
Thank you. Dr. Booty raised a point that where should the court be established?
When?
Should it be, if it is in Liberia, according to Dr. Booty, then it's in conflict. So where should this court be?
It is not in conflict. If you look at the law on, it can be established anywhere, because universal jurisdiction, the war crime court can have.
Under whose jurisdiction?
Under whose jurisdiction? It will be established by a UN. It's a UN-backed court, established in Liberia, functioning as an international court that has little or nothing to do with whether Liberia law is in conflict or whether it's held in Ghana.
As it was in Freetown, Councillor Jewel?
I am struggling to
come in here, please.
I'm struggling to find out which law the councillor is quoting. I really don't know.
Go back.
I'm struggling to find out because the idea
Let the
that
councilor
something can
land.
be
Anthony Freeman, let the councilor land his point, please.
okay.
So what I'm saying, the idea that establishing a war crime code in Liberia would mean a violation or a conflict of our law, that's untrue. Because what the code that is established will be international in nature. Those that are prosecuted before the code will be consistent with international law, including the rule statute. You may cite the Liberian law if you wish to, but how much benefit will you get from that when there are limitations under the Liberian law?
Thank you, Councilor Jewel.
Can
And
I respond?
Fidel.
Can I respond first before you ask your question, Mr. Sear, please?
All
Because
right, go ahead.
I think the councillor is confusing us a little bit, right? And the reason I say that is because if you read Article 2 of our Constitution, right, it says in Section B, I think, that any treaty, any decree, any law, right, that is inconsistent with the Constitution, because the Constitution is supreme, right? So this is it. So like Anthony Freeman said, 1949, we had the Geneva Convention set up. If Liberia had gone to the court anytime before 1979 and says, oh, we want to the UN and let us set up a war crimes code in Liberia, just in case somebody commit war crimes, it will not be inconsistent with Article 21A. But if you set up a court now that is going to prosecute Liberians for crimes committed in Liberia, not crimes that are committed outside, or crimes committed inside of our country, the Constitution supersedes any treaty we've signed inside our country, right? And that is the point I'm making. So you cannot prosecute crimes that were committed inside Liberia with a treaty that is inconsistent with our Constitution. When the Constitution says in Article 2, no treaty that is inconsistent with us will supersede the Constitution.
Hold on, Dr. Budi. Are you saying if you crimes against humanity that were committed in Liberia would not be punishable if you punish them in war crimes?
No. It can be punishable. If you look at what's happening now, the French, the British, and the councillor was asking me about Agnes Taylor earlier on. So international countries can apply the law. Once that person leaves Liberia, they can grab them and punish them outside. But if we establish a court inside Liberia, whether it has international backing or not, if it's punishing Liberians in Liberia for crimes committed in Liberia, my reading, again, this is my reading, and I'm not saying that my reading is perfect. My reading of the Constitution is that it will be inconsistent with Article 21A.
Fidel. So Liberia is signatory to this instrument that are international laws. And Liberia is on an obligation, in my thinking, legally to adhere to those. If there is a code established in Liberia that is international in nature, the fact that Liberia is part of the global village, why are you saying that there will be conflict because of that jurisdiction? Though the code might be established in Liberia, Liberia is part of the world, and so by concept, you can say jurisdiction issue will be there when Liberia is part of the international body.
Again, it depends on. Oh yeah, please. Someone who said they want to come in.
Yeah, I can. I've been silent for a while.
I want to come here a bit on the international law part.
I want him to answer the question because I disagree with him. Because
okay.
And I can answer the question, but Anthony Jensen hasn't spoken for a while, so I'm happy to ask you.
If the code were to be established in Great Britain, for example, Liberia will be persecuted there. But if they established in Liberia, they will not be persecuted there. Why? When in fact it's an international bar code and Liberia is signatory to
let me explain why. Right? Okay. The Geneva Convention we've established, as Anthony Freeman said, came into force in 1948, right? So that was there from 1949. So crimes against humanity, and I pointed out Article 3 of that convention, clarifies that, because initially I thought it was just conventional war, so war between two countries. So Article 3 clarifies that no, internal strife as well are covered. So crimes against humanity, war crimes are covered in that statute. So if a British person prosecuted a Liberian, they're not making a new law. The law was inexistent at the time that this person, in existence at the time that the person committed the crime, right? The person committed crimes against humanity when the law was in existence, right? You get that part?
Mhm.
So any country that person lives in can apply that law because at the time, 1979 is after 1949. Having said that, because Liberia does not have in its constitution or a penal code, quote unquote, war crimes, crimes against humanity, if the establishment of this code is, if they go ahead and establish the code cannot have retroactive powers to go back.
Can I
Now,
address that?
I didn't read. Let me just learn quickly that, Counselor, and I will yield to you. I did not read the Sierra Leone Constitution before writing my article, and I said, "Look, I've not read it." So today I went and read the Sierra Leone Constitution, right? And Lord and behold, Article 106, Section 5 says that the Parliament in Sierra Leone can create laws that have retroactive respect, which is what empowered them to be able to create a special code that went back in time to punish crimes that were committed before the code was established, because their constitution says the parliament is allowed to do that. So there's no inconsistency with their law, irrelevant of whether it's backed by the UN or not.
So
I need to correct something about international law. I think we need to get a understanding of it.
Now, I think Councillor,
Councillor
Jawa
Bill,
As I was on the standby.
I think
Yeah.
can I add? You see, when I started my conversation, I said the legal framework for the international code was actually not being created, and I knew that there is the ICC is there. You have that is largely responsible to prosecute those who committed crimes against humanity, genocide, and what have you. In the case of Liberia, the TRC that was mentioned by the Luna director on the show, the TRC, the intent of the TRC, even its preamble, you got to realize they were created for the sole purpose of ensuring reconciliation, peace. That was the sole purpose of that. So, like some of the issues that are popping up on this show, if it was the legislators that have the lawmaking power, they will be looking at different statutory institutions or laws to see how they could have created the framework, not to say, well, this law is not retroactive. We know that the Rome Statute was created in 2002. There's an argument now that the Rome Statute cannot be applied to those who are in Liberia if there was even a war crime code. But that cannot be true either, because Liberia is not unique. Liberia is a signatory to a lot of international instruments when it comes to even the United Nations, its own existence. So for people to say something and say, well, we will not allow, because I heard somebody just today was telling me, and I don't want to call the senator's name here, that people are even thinking right now that there will either be a situation where Liberia will find herself in chaos because they don't want to accept an international barcode in Liberia. I said that cannot be possible. The only problem that we have right now is people going to play politics. Like, if you want to really establish a war crime code, there are parties, right? You have all of the different war laws, they all have people in the country. Even the genesis of the war, there are individuals whose names are so prominent to the point where if you really want to establish a war crime, they're going to go against that. So some of these arguments that are coming out right now is not to give approbation to the international partner who are sincere to ensure that Liberia get a fair trial for those who committed crimes against humanity. Those who kill innocent people, they need to give an account of that. But the domestic law of Liberia, how do we handle that? It can be you and myself. It has to be those who sit in as legislators. They need to see this matter very seriously. Now, even if the international people that were in Liberia recently gave them an instrument for them to rectify or to pass into law, I'm not sure any of us know the content of that instrument yet. But if they had taken that very seriously, to know that they have a responsibility to create a framework, I still maintain that the framework that need to look at or issues that will border international cooperation. The Liberian lawyers.
Anthony Johnson, I have a simple question. Are our courts not competent enough, equipped enough, or not sufficient for us to look into the crimes committed during the wartime?
I said it from the onset, right? The Constitution of Liberia, the penal law, all of these things we are talking about, like someone killing a sitting president, someone creating mayhem, someone committing rape, torture, and what have you. The penal law of Liberia addresses these issues. But why it's not being tried? Well, that's an issue. Probably people are afraid of the insecurity that will be created as a result of that. Because I agree that you cannot start prosecuting some of these people when you don't have international backing. The creation of the court is just one aspect, right? You need real security to be in Liberia, or it's going to have a fragile situation.
We'll come to the security aspect. And Councilor Jewel, all the crimes that were committed during the war, are they not admissible in our current courts, for which we need international courts or internationally backed courts, to look into those crimes that were committed?
So you need first. Let me address the issue of whether or not our courts would have jurisdiction or not. When you as a country, when you sign an international instrument, the issue of whether your courts have jurisdiction, they don't have jurisdiction, you suspend that. For example, try under our law, an accused must be tried by the jury of his peers. Council Chairman raised that when President Weah wrote the Senate and said that because people who are charged with war crime would not be tried fairly, due process of law, according to him, would not be applied because they would not have a jury of their peers. Now, our courts are competent, but there are limitations. So for a local crime or domestic crime in Liberia, there are statutory limitations. When you can go to court, when you can raise the issues, when you can prosecute, except for murder or capital offense, where there is no statutory limitation. Most of what might have occurred in Liberia will have statutory limitation if you went through our court system. Therefore, all a defense lawyer needs to do is to file a motion to dismiss for want of jurisdiction or for want of lapse of time. So the reason for having an international instrument like the War Crime Code is to make sure that those limitations and those glitches or those quote-unquote conflict that people are raising will not come into play. And I don't understand Dr. Booty when he says that you can try Liberians outside of Liberia for war crimes and other crimes, but you can't try them on the Liberian soil. What is the logic there? If the logic is that this Liberian is governed by the constitution that he cited and the statutory laws, that Liberian could say, you don't have jurisdiction over me because I'm a citizen of Liberia. But as long as Liberia has signed that law,
Right.
a court can be established in Liberia.
No,
And
again,
Let me come in, my man. Let me come in.
Well, okay, I'll let you finish before I respond.
Yeah.
You can have distinct jurisdiction outside of the jurisdiction of our courts. In fact, a plea from a conviction from the War Crime Court, they will not go to our Supreme Court. The erroneous thought that when someone is convicted by the court will have a trial chambers and appellate chambers. Two sections. When you disagree with what the trial judges enter against you as a judgment to convict you, you can appeal to the appellate court, the appellate chamber of the War Crime Court. It would not be an appeal to our Supreme Court. it would be governed conclusively by international law that Liberia is a signatory. Liberia cannot jump back. Liberians cannot say, oh, no. We signed this law, but don't have it on our soil. Go to Ghana. What is the business of going to Ghana? What is the business of being able to try somebody in France? You cannot try them under the same law in Liberia. You are not trying them in Liberian court system. You are not trying them consistent with Liberian law. You are trying them based upon international law.
Right. Attorney Freeman.
Yeah, look, let me clarify this issue of international law. There are a very limited class of international laws that can apply across the globe without the need for a domestic statute. So we call those ones jus cogens law, like slavery, genocide. So if you commit those, you go anywhere, they don't need a specific statute. Piracy on the high seas, stuff like that, they don't need any statute. But for almost all other international law, you will need a domestic statute to incorporate what you agree to, but consistent with your constitution. So when you think about a war crime code, stop thinking about some law that they will write in Washington or Europe and they will bring it and impose it on Liberia. So every international law that you sign up to, except for the jus cogens law, which are universal in jurisdiction, every other international instrument you sign, you got to come to Monrovia and sign a local statute
to ratify
that.
So the laws, what happened during the war? Would it be part of the jus cogens, as you say?
What happened during the if it qualifies as one of those that I'm saying, that's why if you find out around the world, they are prosecuting Liberians, right, for some of these. But when you find out what the TRC did, they recommended an extraordinary criminal tribunal. There is a reason why they put extraordinary there. And that is because in the process of putting those courts together, you have to tighten the loose ends so that the things that will prevent persecution under the regular Liberian law, you would tighten those up. But there is not going to be a law that is going to pass internationally and it will be brought and imposed on Liberia. Anything you do abroad.
Hold on 1 second. Anthony Freeman, so specifically, like what I would say as genocide.
Yeah.
What happened in Liberia, the mass murder, can those be tried in Liberia under the international laws?
I don't know whether genocide occurred. Genocide is an extreme thing. I really don't know. But I'm telling you that those are the few instances that have universal jurisdiction.
Okay. But
every other international law that you sign up to, you have to come back to your country and pass a domestic law for it to be effective in your country.
Instances, did they occur in the Liberian Civil War that you can try with international law in Liberia?
Apart from the actual aspect of the law, right, there are evidentiary issues and other things that come into play. That's why you need to have a local statute to incorporate some other evidentiary matter that may come into being. So that you cannot sign a law outside of Liberia and bring it and impose it on Liberia. It doesn't work like that in international law.
But there is a universal. Just a point.
Yeah, go ahead.
There is a universal jurisdiction that Liberia finds herself in. The RCC statute. And my only concern is the framework that will be created, right? If it is created, we need to know the content of that framework. But you cannot stop the RCC they can come. The moment you have this thing set up, they can pick up anybody from Liberia and they can try that person in Geneva or whatever. The framework will be set.
Can they try that in Liberia? Can they try that in Liberia?
Of course.
The issue of being tried in the setup, listen to me. That's what I said. There must be a universal jurisdiction,
right?
Which has to do with the RCC and the International Criminal Code. It has a universal jurisdiction.
So it is international. That is not true, because other people Who ratified?
hold
Who
on,
the
hold
country
on,
that
Anthony
ratified that
Freeman.
ICC
Liberia
is
is a
applied to?
signatory.
It's
Liberia
not
is a
applied to
signatory.
anybody. You
Liberia is
have
a
to
signatory to
ratify,
the ICC,
and you
right?
have to domesticate.
Liberia
Hold
is
on,
a
Anthony
signatory.
Freeman.
Liberia is a signatory.
So Anthony Jensen, those things that the Universal Declaration, Universal Jurisdiction,
Yeah.
can those be tried in Liberia?
That's what I'm saying. Yes.
Okay.
If an international court is established with a framework that says, look, we have international cooperation where the United Nations, the RCC, they are all part of this framework. They all have that understanding that crimes have been committed against humanity, that there has been torture, there have been rape, there have been all of those elements that are provided for under the Geneva, under the Rome Statute. They can come to Liberia. The court established there. You see international lawyers from the ICC. They will be in Liberia to try anybody. What will you say? Will you say they will not, because that's the purpose of having the framework. You and
The
I don't
ICC
know.
is not a Jews cogent law. The Jews cogent law is under customary international
Listen to
law.
me. The ICC, the Rome Statute has elements that constitute war crimes. And I'm sure those who are going to be writing the law or the framework, they're not going to leave a vacuum before a trial. But the issue for others sit here and want to conclude that even if there was an international war crime court established, the reason I'm saying even war crime is not a phrase that is unique to Liberia. That's a global phrase, war crime. So if Liberia agrees to allow war crime to be committed in Liberia, why will you say they will not be tried in Liberia?
All right,
Yeah.
I think a lot has been said. I need to respond to a few of these before I lose my train.
Go ahead.
And I'm not going to single out anyone, but I think it will cover a lot of the things. So first of all, this is what the ICC says, right, on its website. The jurisdiction of the court may exercise jurisdiction in situations where genocide, war crimes, crimes against humanity are committed on or after 1 July 2002. If there's a war crime, if there is genocide, if there's crime against humanity committed on or after the 1st of July 2002, then the court can prosecute. So that's the ICC. So this whole issue of the Rome Statute prosecuting crimes against humanity in Liberia from 1979 up until 2003, it can only prosecute after the 1st of July. That's what the ICC states. That's the jurisdiction that it has.
So
let me can I land? There's two more points I want to make quite quickly. I'll make two more points quite quickly. The other court that exists is called the International Court of Justice, right? Now, the International Court of Justice has two jurisdictions. One is called the jurisdiction in contention, which basically it can only adjudicate between states. So the state comes and look, the other state did something to me and leg, and it adjudicates between the two states. The other one is to give advice to the United Nations and agencies of not to prosecute, but to give advice. So it can decide on matters between two states, so like border disputes and things like that, or it can give advice to the UN that, oh yeah, this is war crime, or this is this, or this is that, but it cannot prosecute, right? Now, the court, and I think the point that you raised was very good, Councillor Sir Anthony Jensen, in terms of framework. There isn't any international framework, right, that can prosecute war crimes in Liberia legitimately. That is why the UK applies UK law to prosecute war crimes. The Americans apply American laws to prosecute war crimes. The French apply French laws to prosecute war crimes. Who's the other one? The Swedish or the Norwegian apply Swedish or Norwegian law. In none of the cases where Liberians have been tried, the Belgians apply Belgian law, whatever law they got in their country. None of them have applied an international law because there isn't a framework. The two international courts that we have, the ICJ can only decide on matters between states or give advice to the UN. The ICC can only try these cases after the 1st of July 2002, which is only 6 months of the Liberian Civil War in that. So yeah, anything that happened after July 1, yes, they can try internationally, but they cannot try anything prior to that.
Let me
That
clarify.
is different from try in Liberia, though.
Let me
You were
clarify
saying they
two
can't
things.
try in Liberia. So are you saying after
No,
July?
but if they cannot try it at all, so how would they try in Liberia if they can't try it at all?
No, meaning but for the 6 months they can try that one in Liberia after the
Oh,
establishment
no,
of
no.
the
And
ICC.
they have to be invited, right? They have to be invited by the country. That's what it states. And you can go on the website and read it yourself. Liberia has to go to the ICC and say, from the 1st of July 2002 to whatever in August 2003, there were crimes committed. We want you to come and prosecute these crimes.
And
Right?
that one
They
they
can do
can
that.
establish the code
No,
in
they can
Liberia.
do that. That one they can do. But what I'm
All right.
saying is it cannot go beyond 2000. And my argument is simply that it can't go beyond 2002.
Yeah,
I think that's what I wanted to come in.
Councillor Jewa, go ahead.
So we're talking two things here. Dr. Budi is talking about the ICC. He's talking about the ICJ. We're not talking about the courts. We're talking about a specialized court consistent with international law.
Which international law?
Oh, you have the laws of war. You have the laws on torture. You have the humanitarian law. You have general international law.
And that's why the ICC was established, so that it can deal with those laws.
No, we're not asking ICC. That's not what we're
No,
talking
but
about.
that's the only court we have internationally that can deal with those kind of laws.
Dr. Bodi, the question of establishing a war crime court is not meant to invite the RTC to prosecute. It is a specialized UN-backed court growing out of the laws that I just cited, the laws I just referenced, to create. It will have judges that will be different from the judges at the ICC. It will have lawyers, both Liberian lawyers and international lawyers will be appearing before that court. It will apply the laws of war. It will apply the international law. It will apply international humanitarian law. It will apply the law on torture. That is a court that will be specialized. As to its evidence, they're not calling ICC to come and prosecute anything. That's not
And it has to be passed by the Liberian Parliament.
Oh my goodness! What is passed by your Liberian Parliament?
And then it becomes inconsistent with our constitution.
Wait a minute. When you sign those international instruments, you suspended part of your right to say your law will come into conflict. You did not say, I will sign this law and we are bound. And mind you, the war crime thing, as Attorney Jason said, is not unique to Liberia.
No.
It is universal. So to say, let's move it to Ghana, then will be legal. It doesn't make sense. Let's move it to
Councillor Jewa, you have the Geneva Convention.
Yes.
You have ICC, ICJ. When you say the international law, where are you taking it from? Is it from the Geneva Convention?
The Geneva Convention will be applied. The law of the humanitarian law will apply. The law of torture will apply. The
humanitarian law of torture, where are they?
But there's something I wanted to say.
What do you mean?
Yeah, I mean, where are you getting them from? Where are they written?
They are part and parcel of the body of international law. What will happen?
Can you give us the names of these laws so we can go and read them?
No, I think that I don't think would be fair to. I don't think would be fair to the councillor, right? Because
which fair does we actually you say fair?
We're trying to help our country.
Say that again.
We're trying to help our country.
But I'm saying not fair because you want to put a jacket on him to say, okay, you want him to say either the ICC or
the Rome Statute.
The Rome Statute, right? But there are few
but the Rome Statute created the ICC, so that's one.
But you have to be a little more specific.
Listen. That's not the two laws that deals with crimes against humanity.
No,
right? So as long as it's a murder, there were extermination, there were torture.
Yes.
There were all of these heinous crimes that were committed. When a court is established, maybe some of you can become researchers to tell us, we will not go outside of the Rome Statute that was created in 2002. But someone will say, well, they have to do with murder. I will use the Liberian law to argue my case. This man is a Liberian. He killed someone, and the law of Liberia says he should not kill. So the Rome
Exactly.
Statute, when a court is established, the framework is created. The lawyers that will be in the matter, they know how to do their research. They know how to, nobody is saying, we are not discussing to target individuals here. We are discussing with a mindset that the first and foremost, is there a need to have a war crime? For me, I say yes, there's a need to have a war crime, so that
I say
those
yes
who
as well.
committed crime against humanity can be made to account. Do we think those people will be witch hunted? No. Do we think it should be just few group of persons? No. All of those persons who are even happy for the establishment of the war crime, we believe those persons will have their days in court. They will find the best lawyers for themselves, so that the court is established. Go to court and exonerate yourself. If you feel that you was like you fought the war at the time you were 13-year-old, and because of that you should not be punished, go to the court and go tell the court.
Correct.
And the court will tell you, say, oh yeah, let me what 12 years you started fighting. So
I'm little lost here.
Yeah.
Are you saying because you say murder, all those things will be punished under Liberian law?
Could
and
be.
that's why I asked you initially. So which of these will go to the international law?
But that's why I said to you, for me personally, my little reading is that there's that document I went to the legislators. I have not read it. I don't see it. Because the first thing is none of us here know the framework. If we need a framework, how are they, what kind of instrument those people have carved? Then we'll be talking about, okay, you know why? There's so much limitation. There will be a violation. There will be a limitation. People can't go outside, can't do this. But until we know that, you can't sit and say, well, when they establish a war crime code and they maybe we start seeing international police, Interpol into Liberia, they start sending, because I'm more concerned about the volatile situation of Liberia. But the court, I have no fear that when the court is established, you will have protection in Liberia.
Of course.
So those who are targeted, now I don't want to use the word targeted, but those who committed crime, who are believed to have committed crime, they themselves should be looking for lawyers now. Instead of arguing, say, well,
which crime?
Huh?
Which crime? You said those who committed crime. Which crime?
Crimes against humanity. I started naming some of them. Those committed murder, mass murder. Those who exterminated, cut people's hands, and they all kind of stuff.
And what's about the and again, it comes to the. Will we be using the room statute or what? Or
you will use any law. If I'm a lawyer in of those trials, I will find every available law. I'm not going to get stuck. Somebody I'm going to argue, say, oh, room statute it was established 2022, so I can't do anything else. The first opportunity I have is you create a court and let my client be there. Let me talk to my client. My client say, my man, you know why I did A, B, C, D. Then I need to do my research to see whether there are any law that I can use in the court that will be established to see whether my client can be free or what, my man, there's nothing I can do. In fact, I can't represent you because the thing telling me right now, I just can't do it, right? But to sit and believe that, people committed crimes since 1990 to 2002, then we need not to have we need not to talk about war crime code, because most of the crimes were committed in a period of time. So if the room study is the only catch that will say there's no retrogressive, attempt to try people who committed crime, then we shouldn't be sitting and discussing war crime code. But
that's Janice, that's the point I'm making, that the parliament is involved.
That's true.
And the fact that we have not been able to do it should tell you that the parliament is involved, because the parliament will put together what the scope of the crimes will be, what the evidentiary issues,
the legislature.
The legislature. Okay. They will define the rules of the game, whether considering international law or whatever it is, they will define. But there is no way that a law will be written abroad.
What's that?
I'm making my point. It will be written abroad and imposed on Liberia. The first two reasons why it will not happen: one, jurisdiction. How will you get the people? Because in order to get the people, you need to work with the Liberian state. And for the Liberian state to operate, they got to operate with either the constitution.
But you behind time.
I'm making a point.
Yeah, but you behind time.
When you get to jurisdiction, because if you accuse people of a crime and you need to carry them for trial, the first thing is jurisdiction. The very first thing before you even
Why
go
you
into
think
the case.
international
So
partner are
how will you
friendly around
get
Liberia?
jurisdiction over the people? You have to work with Liberian state. The Liberian state got to operate with laws. So
That's true.
there is not going to be an international court without the national legislature. That is not going to happen.
My brother, I think all of us understand that, right?
No one
Because
has
even all these people that come in the library right now, we're hearing the horse pass a piece of law. These are all the international corporations. You know,
So-
you can't.
so-
They
so
can't.
I
They
don't
know they
want
can't.
There are plenty of them. They
No,
are voted.
no one
Yes,
is coming.
yes, my question.
No one is saying that there will be law written in Washington, D.C. and brought to Monrovia, defining how the court should function. The judges, the chambers, and whatnot, evidentiary material should be gathered. No. That's why your government, the government of Liberia, Mr. Weah failed to do that. Mrs. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf failed to do that. That's why if Bwaka is serious to do so, he would ensure that the framework that Attorney Jason is talking about will be put into place. How many people voted in the House on the resolution and saying we want war crime court?
40.
There were
42.
correct. So what I'm saying is that when you have a different political atmosphere, like Mrs. Johnson Sirleaf is no longer there, Mr. Weah is no longer there. If Joseph Boakai wants to, the resolution are being sent to the Senate, there are few warlords in there that are arguing. And there are those who argue like Dr. Bodie are saying, "Oh, let's take the matter on to Ghana."
Oh no, you don't misquote my point, please. I never said I should go to Ghana.
No. I'm saying
didn't
there are
say that.
people. I didn't say you said that.
No, but
I
you
said
said like Dr. Booty, right?
Like Dr.
And I didn't say that. Yeah,
the Liberians accused can be persecuted in other countries other than Liberia. So it's similar to
But that is also true, Councillor.
It's
That is
happening.
true.
Chucky
It's
Taylor
a
in
court-
jail in
it's a
your
court.
country.
That's what I'm saying.
Martina
And-
Johnson went to
let me
court
tell you
in
something.
Belgium. There's
If the
someone being
international
arrested in
community-
Paris
let the
right
court-
now.
But it doesn't mean that a court cannot be established in Liberia. Those people were
Yeah, it can be established in Liberia. It can be established anywhere else.
It can be
No,
established anywhere else.
my advice to both of you, Councillor Jawed and Anthony Jensen,
Yeah.
Councillor Jiwe, yeah. My advice would be to go and consult Article 21A of our Constitution, right? Because it's clear and it's my reading of it, right? But I just hope that you go and read it and then
Here's my question.
Asking lawyer to go
But
consult.
are you aware that cases ending at the Supreme Court in Liberia is now landing in the ECOWAS court?
No, I
Do
said
you
the
follow-
Constitution of Liberia. I didn't say
Huh?
ECOWAS court. I said the Constitution of Liberia. I didn't
I'm
say
just
ECOWAS
giving you
court.
that scenario so you can
So what you
understand
reading
the
the
international
Constitution
link.
is upside down.
Gentlemen, order here. I have a question for you people. My question is, where should the court be established and why?
I can pick it up first, right?
Yeah, you
The
go ahead.
court will be established to
Will
be a
be or
venue for
should?
the
Where
court.
first? Where?
I
Listen,
said, where should the court be established? And you are saying will. You are speaking as
but
though
listen
you're
to me
the
now.
one
By
establishing
talking
the
now,
court.
you can't put words in my mouth.
But he asked a specific question. Answer the
So
question.
why someone say
I
yes
asked
or no?
you where
No,
should,
that's not
and
the
you are
point
saying
which I'm
will, and that's the reason.
So when I say will, you listen to all of my comment I follow, right?
All right,
So
go,
what I'm
go
saying
ahead.
here, there's a reason why I'm saying will, because establishing a war crime court is not in vacuum of ignoring the peace process or the peace of a nation. If the war crime court, those who committed crimes against humanity, if the international corporation, they from their own study, they realize that Liberia will not be at peace. There will be instability. There will be some upheaval. The framework that they will create, the Solina Court they created, where was it? They went to The Hague. That was the trial Charles Taylor, right? Why you couldn't argue that Charles Taylor should have been tried in Sierra Leone? Because the people understood the implication. You have, fragile peace. So those who are concerned, not the parliamentarian or the legislators, they should be reading between these discussions to see whether or not For example, let me be no evil here. Right? Let me think no dirty.
And Anthony Jensen, I want you to give me a straight answer. Where should the code be established and why?
It could be established in Liberia. It could be established anywhere else. That's the factors I'm giving you. So
And why? Why should it be established in Liberia? And why should it be established elsewhere?
Fine. It can be established in Liberia because all of the victims are in Liberia. Those who committed crimes against humanity, they're in Liberia, and other factors. But let us assume that even with those factors, instability is likely. Those who are concerned about maintaining peace in Liberia, they probably will be thinking about elsewhere instead of having it in Liberia. So these are the two reasons.
Do you think instability is likely?
It's very likely. You can't ignore it. Can't ignore it.
I disagree. The first thing I want to say is
go ahead.
Anthony Freeman, go ahead.
Yeah, let me
the
say
first thing
why,
I want to say is, but man, you take forever. You are a philosopher, so when you start, you just
Anthony Jensen, please let Freeman go. Freeman, same question. Should the code be established in Liberia elsewhere? Why or why not?
I would say the code should be established in Liberia, but I also know that under special circumstances, if the legislature so will, they can, by law decide that it can sit in another country. So that it depends on what the national legislature says. But the issue of instability, I don't know of any country, and I say any, and maybe Jensen, if you know one, you should call it. Bosnia, where there were war crimes, Rwanda, I know Germany, and a whole host of other places. There have not been a country that have established war crime code and then it led to instability. Not that I know of. So, but the problem in Liberia really is whether or not the people of Liberia either acting on their own or acting through their national legislature, whether they want it. So but I don't see instability from all the places that they have held war crime code. I don't see any instability there.
Were you asking me? So I want to.
No, I think Councillor Jawe and I need to have our turn to answer the question that Mr. C.
But he asked me directly now.
Councillor.
Go ahead, Buddy.
No, that Councillor. I want Councillor to. Oh, you want me to go first, right?
Yeah, go.
Okay, yeah, right. So now, my position is not that we shouldn't have war crimes code, right? So if we're having a war crimes code in Liberia, it should be established in Liberia because I believe that any court that is established outside of Liberia and expected to have jurisdiction over Liberia is inconsistent with our constitution, right? Having said that, I believe that the court cannot have retroactive powers, all right? And to your point, Mr. Anthony Freeman, the court for Rwanda was actually set up in Tanzania, not in Rwanda, for the same reason that Councillor Anthony Jensen mentioned.
But you didn't get my point well. I said, once the parliament can decide.
You were talking about the security concerns. The reason they established the court in Tanzania was for security concerns, because the court was actually established in November 1994 when the genocide was. Let me land. No. The United Nations was the one that called for the court, right? Because at that time, the genocide was still ongoing. The genocide lasted from January to December 1994. The court was set up on 2nd November 1994 in Tanzania. So while the genocide was still going on, the court was set up, right? So the question is, it should be set up in Liberia. And the reason I want it to be set up in Liberia is because it's going to be trying crimes that Liberians committed. The victims will have to go and testify against these individuals, even though I believe any court that has retroactive powers will be inconsistent with the Constitution.
All right. So let's look at the same question.
I think Councillor.
Yeah, Councillor, answer the same question, and then I want to play a short clip.
So the court should be established in Liberia. The idea that there will be war and that people will jump into the street, Liberia will be in big chaos. You know who's saying those things? Are those accused warlords who say, okay, we've been granted immunity a long time ago, so don't prosecute us. And because the court, and I disagree with Dr. Budi, because the court is created on a specialized arrangement, it will not be in conflict with any law of Liberia. Neither will it be retroactive, or it will be prosecuting people who committed crime outside the court. The framework itself, being specialized, will define how cases are taken to court. It will define how parties appear before the court. It will define what crimes should be treated under the court. Liberia has a responsibility, and that responsibility is to ensure that those who allegedly committed war crimes are prosecuted, not just rely upon the Rome Statute or Liberian laws.
Thank you.
You want to bring war crime code? Bring a damn war crime code. Don't be speaking your stinking about every day. Thank you.
No, but the war crime code is not intended just for you.
But the operating is mine. The operating is for me. Bring it. I know it's not coming. There's not a way to bring war crime code. You go through processes, legal processes. You don't talk about things on the floor when you see me. When you see me.
Senator Prince Johnson is angry.
But I think Prince Johnson has a point, and that's almost the same thing we're discussing here. You cannot antagonize these people. There's a reason for a code, and the code is to allow these people.
What do you mean antagonize? Who antagonized him?
I mean, you heard the tip. He said something not directly talking about.
He just feel to see they talk about
No,
it.
I think I heard a clip from him before.
Yeah.
He and Darrell
That's how he feel.
So
I don't think anybody antagonized him.
So even in Nima, when one of the radio stations asked him a question, he cursed the guy out.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are just joining us, this is FOL Justice Forum. We are discussing the War Crimes Court in Liberia. And if you want to be part of the conversation, the number is in the scrolling text there. Please call and we'll be able to take your call. I want us to conclude on War Crime Court because I want to ask something unrelated to War Crimes Court. But let's looking at Liberia, where we are today, what is the future of this War Crimes Court? How do you see it, Dr. Budi?
Well, I hope that our legislators will learn how to read our constitution, and that they will understand. And I'm happy. I think Anthony Freeman touched on this as well, and I think Anthony Johnson touched on it. We already have in our penal codes in Liberia, all of the crimes that were committed during the war can be individually tried under the codes that we already have. There is no need to bring it under this banner of war crimes because the Americans, let me not say the international, because the Americans telling us that we need a war crime court. If Prince Johnson kills somebody and the Liberian Justice Ministry believes that they have evidence to prosecute him beyond a reasonable doubt, take him to court for murder. If John Brown raped somebody and the Liberian Justice Ministry feels that it has evidence to prosecute John Brown beyond a reasonable doubt, there are already laws on the book, right, that you can use. There is absolutely no need to have crimes lumped up together under this phrase or terminology or whatever of war crimes. If we want to establish a war crimes court as a deterrent for individuals in the future, then yes, establish the court or pass the law that says that, look, going forward, if somebody did A, B, and C, a special court can be set up to prosecute you. That's fine, because then it is not violating that Article 21A that I keep referring to, in mind, the way I read the Constitution.
And Dr. Budi, before you continue, remember now, we say we can prosecute these things under Liberian laws. Remember what happened April 12, 1980, and it was legislated that even though we killed the president, which is treason, nobody should touch us, right? That is in our Constitution. So the people that commit these crimes, they have the ability to make the laws, right?
Well, and I think Councillor Jawe made a very good point, right? That, and I believe, if our legislature, and the reason I say they need to learn how to read the Constitution, if they decide to go ahead and do what they're doing, the votes are there. The votes are there. Prince Johnson can stop it. The votes are there to pass. If the House of Representatives writes a law that is inconsistent with the Constitution, the votes are there in the Senate to pass that law. Prince Johnson cannot stop it. They will pass the law, the code will be established, and then a defense attorney will have to go and argue before the Supreme Court that this law is inconsistent, so it should not be have any effect whatsoever.
And I want to pick up
what's the future of war crime court?
There is a need for a special law, and that is because of the statute of limitation issue.
Correct.
And that is part of the reason why people pass these special laws, because there will be evidentiary issue that will not fit into your current legal framework.
Correct.
So on the basis of that, you have to pass a special law to expand the scope of operation, and and provide maybe an opportunity even for the court to sit in a specialized location, to sit in secret. There's a whole lot of reasons, but they are not theoretical, they are practical reasons why it is done. That's why I'm saying that it has to be by law so that those loose ends on a legal level can be stopped. But I strongly believe
but to that point
cannot be trusted. The Senate, I just make this quick point. I don't believe the Senate can be trusted. I don't even believe President Bouaka is committed, because after 6 years of dancing with Ure and 6 months of dancing with PYJ, there is no reason to trust Bouaka. That's why I think that the best way is to put it to a referendum. When the Liberian people decide, there is nobody that can stop it.
So the thing is, and I like that point, and I was going to make another point, but the point you made now, I'll just touch on it quickly. If we put it to a referendum, I believe the question to the Liberian people should be, let us repeal, right, Article 21A, so that it allows us to make retroactive laws. And that way you can set up a war crimes court that goes backwards and punish people for crimes that they committed. Until that is done, any law that tries to do that, whether you say, statute of limitation is trying to address, as long as the law is going back to punish something that was committed at the time that it wasn't in existence, again, it's inconsistent with that particular article. So the referendum issue might be a way to solve it.
Yes. Let me.
Councillor, give us the picture of war crime court.
The article that Dr. Woody keep referring to is moot when it comes to international law. It's not applicable. So no, that's why the code will be created under a specialized structure with rules defining how the code functions. Because Liberia is a signatory to these instruments, Liberia has allowed itself and its argument to be trumped by international law.
Correct.
So Article 21 you're talking about, it is locally applied. It's not talking about international law. It's talking about what happened in your country, what happened with people in your country doing things that your local law will be invoked. But because you are governed by the law, Liberia is governed by the law that is signed the international instrument, the Article 21A he's talking about is inapplicable. So the legislature don't even need to learn anything from that. All they need to know is that this law is inapplicable. And that Liberia, under international law, Liberia has signed and it's a signatory. So Liberia cannot say, we have signed, but no. There is a law here that will guide our constitution. When you are signing, you are binding yourself to international instruments. And those instruments affect you. You cannot pick and choose which instrument should be applied because there is an Article 21A there.
There's a problem with what the councillor is saying. And I want to take you back in history. What happened when they put sanction on Taylor and they said Ellie should seize the property? Were Ellie able to seize the properties?
He said,
look, can I
when the Taylor MPFL grew, they were sanctioned and they said they should seize the UN passed a resolution that the properties should be seized. Was at that time Ellie was president, was she able to seize those properties?
The law that UN passed applied to international nature of what Taylor then did. So whether Ellie seized or not didn't matter. What
she wasn't because we didn't have a local law.
It's not. This is not part of the war crimes thing. What Taylor then did, that the UN passed resolution to have their property seized. UN could enforce its own law. Like they didn't need any statutory.
How would they enforce the law on Liberian soil? What kind of legal instrument they will use
have a
on Liberian
question.
soil?
They were not enforcing on Liberian soil.
I have a question. And then after that, we will go to the callers here. And this is the
Anthony
question.
Jensen want to ask that question, and answer the same question before we move on.
The question was,
what's the future of war crimes code in Liberia?
I think Liberia has a future, but those who are governing, those who are heading the three branches of government, they need to take this issue very seriously. The international partners, I see that they are willing. So,
do you think they will take it seriously? We want to see what you see ahead.
I don't want to say they won't, because we saw majority of the House members recently acting on an instrument. The Senate has not, in my view, but I think with international connections or cooperations and willingness, I'm sure most of them will get on board. My only fear is they may not have a major say as to the wordings of the kind of framework that we should be expecting. So we all will be discussing these issues, but the international code, I believe, is going to come. And that and there's one thing here, and I want to pick up from Prince Johnson, the clip you play. Prince Johnson, it appears that when people are talking about war crime code, they are clearly looking at Prince Johnson.
No.
Why not?
And I think he just feels that.
Why not all of the other warlords?
People do what wrongs even if nobody pursues him.
Yeah.
But you want to listen to Prince Johnson again?
No.
I mean, it's up to you. You are running your show.
Yeah,
when you want to build a house, you should count the costs.
Meaning what?
Meaning, when I decided to put my life on the line with the great sons and daughters of Nimba to liberate themselves from the yoke of oppression, from the oppressive and diabolical regime, we were prepared for any eventuality. I'm glad that we are free. We are totally free. We were marked for total extermination, destruction of Nimba and the people. Now we are free. So whoever want to bring war crime code, to hell with you, go and bring it. I'm prepared to face the music.
That was Prince Johnson, and this is my question to you guys, and then we will go to the callers if there are.
I do not think a war crime code for Liberia will be the best thing. We are a very small country made up of less than maybe 4 million persons, and the interrelatedness of the families are so tight. If you drag one person to court, the families that are attached, it will just have a ripple effect.
All of the people who fought the war in Liberia would speak like this. All of them, including Joe Howard Taylor.
I think the people should just be given a fair trial, but they cannot stop the war crime code. That's the biggest thing. It should be holistic, not individual, not target individuals.
So you heard where Howard Taylor there.
Yeah,
she does nothing.
Let's go to Kanye and Booty.
Yeah, I feel like the Liberian people are conflicted in the way they look at things, because if you want accountability, you cannot give leadership to the people who stand accused. It prevents you from achieving accountability. They knew that Bwaka got in a coalition with Prince Johnson. And they knew that by that coalition, it would have been very difficult to implement the war crime or economic crime, but they voted for the coalition. So now the complication that is happening is only a result of what they did in terms of the vote. That's why I'm saying put it in a referendum and put it to the Liberian population and let everybody decide. Everybody for itself, let everybody decide whether we will have this code or not.
I think that would delay the process.
There is no no conflict with the Liberian people here. The Liberian people chose to vote. Politics is power. Election has meaning. Joseph Boakai associated with you're talking about. Joseph Boakai was looking for a way to win the election. Joseph Boakai associated with Prince Johnson. He even said, I will dance with the devil. What was he looking for? To gain power. Does that mean that the people who committed war crimes should not be prosecuted? No.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Buri. Your answer, and then we bring our callers. They've been waiting.
Sorry, can you remind me of the question, please?
Jua Howard Taylor said we are connected. We are close knit. If you drag one person to court, it will have a ripple effect. Prince Johnson said he was doing this to free Nimba, so you can't touch him. Yaya Nimland seconded the motion from Prince Johnson that hey, it's not the time.
It's a 3-year down.
Josh Bole, by the time you call his name, he sue you. Judge Bole, LPC, I can say publicly, if he can sue me, is responsible for the death of my father.
Wow.
So you say he sued, he say you want to sue. So again, that goes back to what they are saying, their defense.
Well,
so
basically, look, let me.
Alan Johnson did not give us a war crime code. We did not do anything to bring about a war crimes code. He promised. We are promised he failed.
They did something. It didn't work.
Well, I don't know. I didn't see what he did. No, I didn't see it.
We are asking for advice.
Yeah,
we are did nothing, Dennis. We are did absolutely nothing. We did not send a bill to the legislature to add on. He said you are asking them for advice. That is not a bill. Yeah, when a president wants something, they send a bill that add on this. We did not do so. But the question then is there a future for war crimes code in this new administration, Fidel?
Well, like I said earlier, I think I don't trust our legislature. I think the legislators in there don't understand what they're doing, and so I wouldn't be surprised that they would pass a law that is inconsistent with our constitution. Having said that, there are other issues, and Attorney Jensen touched on this. It's the security issue I'm concerned about. I'm also concerned about the fact that people like Alhaji Komar, people like Roosevelt Johnson, who I believe are deceased, they're victims. Where is going to be their justice, right? So the TRC report was submitted in December 2009. It's been sat on, like you said, Mr. Sear, by President Sirleaf and President Weir. So where are the justice for those people as well? And then the final thing for me, which links to my argument of illegality, is the motivation behind this, right? So the Americans finally decided now that they believe is the time for war crimes court in Liberia. And we are just jumping up and doing the dance of the U.S., not taking into consideration that when the Americans fought their own civil war in 1860, whatever, they had an opportunity to put all of the Confederate States leaders on trial, and they refused to do it. So I was reading an article by a professor from Penn State University that was published in 2014, and it was a deliberate attempt, right? The Northerners realized that two things were barriers. One, if you try to convict these guys, you will find it difficult to find a jury of 12 people to convict them because there will always be sympathizers, right? So you find it hard to get a unanimous verdict. And secondly, they felt that it was going to undermine the process of nation building. So one of the reasons that the Americans did not go and prosecute all the guys that started the Civil War was because, and over 1 million people died in America during the Civil War. But they didn't. They chose no, nation building is better than going after people who committed atrocities and war crimes. So for them to come and now tell us that we should be doing something that they chose not to do, it's very disingenuous. Again, people want justice. There are people in Liberia. My final point before I hand over. There are people in Liberia who are faith-based people who would choose forgiveness and reconciliation over, justice in and of itself. So the question is, are we listening to those people? And that's why I like the idea that Anthony Freeman put forward, because if we put it to a referendum, if the majority of Liberians are people who believe that we had the TRC, we told the people, tell the truth, we'll forgive you and we'll move on, and they decide, nah, we think it's enough, I spent 24 years or 23 years or 20, however many years. I've forgotten about it now. I've healed. I don't want to relive those difficult, times having to go to court and relive all those difficult. Then we just let it go. But let's listen to the victim, not to the Americans. Let's listen to the victims.
I'm one of the victims, I'm telling you. So
No, that's why I say when they do the referendum, go to Liberia and vote in the referendum.
Let's bring in our callers here. The first one is Mr. Kesely Double. You're live.
Oh yes, thank you very much, Mr. Ja, and I just say good evening to you.
Where have you been?
I'm here. I've been following the show. It's just that there was certain time the political debate was too tense, and I didn't want to be too much entangled into it, so I was just watching the show and keeping my patience.
Thank you. Go ahead. You're live.
Now that everything is over, and with this issue of this war comes code. Mr. Ja and to you, panel, sometimes I feel sad when I hear some of our colleagues saying that they do not want to work economic crimes to come to Liberia. For some of us who live in Liberia, we know what we went through during the civil crisis. We spend all of our time in Liberia. Our usual life was taken away from us. Besides family, our relatives that died in the war, our usual life was taken away from us completely. And we know what we went through. For us to sit and defend issue against the war and economic crime, because sometimes it's surprising. And most time I always tell people, when you are discussing it now, do a war and economic crime, I'm kindly begging, bring people on the show who are of age, who experienced the war. Do not bring people who did not go through the war, who knew nothing about the war. Bring people of age who knew what the Civil War was like.
Like who?
We're not talking about Article 1 of the Liberian Constitution. The Great Geneva Convention that we are signatory to, that we signed in 1949, that is a part of. There is no limitation to crime, war criminals. So in as much as we are signatory to that particular document, it states that there is no limitation to war criminals. I don't know where the brother is coming from with this or statutory limitation to war criminals.
Thank you.
And 3, I want the war and economic council to be right in Liberia.
Thank you.
Economic reasons, people will get jobs and let the people feel.
So Dennis, who is taking off the show?
Others who I have the intention of going back to it will not go back to state. Thank you very much.
Thank you. What you say, Koine?
Who is taking off the show for age factor?
Oh, no, I didn't do that scrutiny when I was inviting the people on the show.
Let me just say, I was in Liberia until 2001, right? So I was born in the 80s, and I was there until 2001. Just to clarify that, my face might look young, but I'm not that young.
But I don't think he's referring to you.
Hold on. We got Othello on the line. Othello, go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. So, thank you for the show and thank you for all Liberians that listen to the program. I just seen some of all Liberians today that we are 177 years old, that those people that would think they are better for us, our rare oil that we produce in Liberia, it makes out of toothpaste. It's easy to have a company in Liberia to produce a toothpaste in our country. I'm talking about mineral resources, our gold and diamonds. We don't have nothing in our country. But the dig in our country, the dig our iron ore, our bauxite, our everything for our country. Then we sit down today, some of you guys sit down today and talking about war crime code in our country. Are you boys really serious about what you're talking about? Are you boys really serious about what you're talking about? Because you see, one of the things I think about, we Liberians that will travel around the world, will travel America, Russia, all over the world. We don't even come together and use the cheapest store in the United States of America, which is the dollar store, to come together and open a dollar store in our country. We can't do it. But all we do is individualistic. We do individual things. I was saying one to my parents. I was saying one to people. You are conditioning your people to not do nothing for your country. And you don't have no shame that you sit there and talk about war crime code. And those people that will be behind for 177 years, they have nothing in our country to produce anything in our country. Right. They can't just produce people in our country. They don't sit down here today and you're trying to tell our people in Liberia today to bring another war in our country. Is that the people will listen to?
Thank you.
Liberia, we have to think twice and do different things in this 21st century. Now our own father to be behind us. We're going to choose another person
Thank you.
to be behind us for tomorrow for future and development. Thank you.
Thank you,
God bless
Othello.
Liberia.
Thank you. Tesma, you're alive.
You don't have shame.
You say when you talk about justice, then you're going to be ashamed. Tesma, go ahead, you're live.
Yeah, good show, Dennis. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to express my view.
Thank you.
War crime code in Liberia, I think it's, in my view, I think it's necessary. It's necessary that we have disclosure. People have to come up and tell us what it did during the war. We know people in that country who committed serious atrocity against the Liberian people. I will hear every Liberian victim. I will speaking to you right now. My personal friend, I know one of our renowned musician, Florence Gilbert, her brother, Thomas Brawl, grew up together in Cruton. He was killed. The day he was killed, he and I was at the port. We spent the day at the port. In the evening, he told me he was leaving. He said, we should go home. In Cruton, I said, no, I'm not going back there now. I will hang around, And he went home. Later on in the evening, I was going back home. I got to New Cruton right in front of the police station. Before I even got there, somebody told me, one of the guys that knew me, said, they killed your friend. I said, who? He said, Prince Johnson killed your friend. I said, what do you mean by that? Who, my friend? He said, Thomas Broad, too. I said, wow. So when I got there, currently when I got in front of the police station in New Cruton, I saw two Prince Johnson soldiers. Their body was right there. So when I saw their body, I said, no, but this is not my friend. He's not part of this thing. So my friend and his uncle came across the street and said, oh, yeah, the kid too. I said, what? He said, yeah, we just took his body.
Yeah.
I said, but what happened?
Yeah.
And he told me that. He said, listen, let me finish. Dennis,
you can get to the point.
Yeah, let me hit the point right. These two bodies saw here, the accused two of stealing something.
Let me go back to you.
They stole some money with him. So he stole something. So Prince Johnson just saw him and killed him. And right away, Prince Johnson turned around and killed these two guys. So, I mean, we know what's going on in our country. People committed atrocity and they have power today. They're moving around. That's just to be done. Some of us not going to forget these things until people pay the price for what they did. All right, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. 614 area code. We got two more callers. Your name and where you calling from?
Oh, is it me, Bendu, from Columbus, Ohio?
Go ahead, Bendu. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, thank you, Brother Dennis, for the show. I've been following it lately. I personally see that we are not ready for the war crime court. And my reason is that our wounds are deeper than most of the other countries that we are comparing ourselves with. For example, most of these countries, they were colonized. But for us, what happened to us, it was individual to individual. We have Liberians that were suppressing other Liberians for years. And as a result, people grew bitter and angry. And those wounds were never adhered to. And so I see that the Civil War was just an outburst of our anger and our trauma. So I think we personally need to, first of all, be de-traumatized. And we need counselors before we can get ready for the court. Or else we're going to open wounds that have been like scar on for years. So I think that's why we're not ready yet for the war crime court.
Thank you. See, we're making things so deep when they talk. Let me get my last caller here, and that's Josiah Newport.
Hey, hello. How you doing?
Yeah, great. How are you?
Yeah, thank you. Actually, the whole war crime code is necessary, but I think it's just complicated. I made it complicated is that the very people that brought the war to our country, there's no way Prince Johnson, Ellen Johnson, Sullivan, all these people can go to our country and carry war. The very international community that want to carry the war can't code it, that want to brought the war on us. So it's just looking funny, like, you know, it's just like, okay, his mouth is bad, and you say, what your mind part for, you know, I'm going to judge you. Anyway, the big brother still got no option. We have to say anything they say. Nevertheless, the guy just called out. We got him to myself and literature drawing, and I saw two of my best friends. He was killed by Prince Johnson. We're not going to go to that story, but the thing I want to say is that this thing, I think it should be done because of precedent reason. Because if the clean margin people that born in 2000, even recently, those kids, they are brave to stone people and kill people because somebody stole, because somebody did something. Why? Because why kids are doing? Because there's no justice, there's no precedent set to us. You know, people that are committed a heinous crime, the Prince Johnson and put it with a knee, but you always cry. I always call a knee for. You know, he and the other guys, they committed crimes and nothing happened, and they are enjoying the resources as a result of killing us. So I feel when these things happen, when they go to court, when they fire, they will think a day when they see what justice look like, then probably next time somebody want to go to the bush or someone commit crime, we say, look, I will not do that. There's a consequence for this.
Yeah.
We see the consequences and we see how bad it is. Other people don't really want to tell me anything, but when it goes scot-free, trust me, anybody will go in the bush tomorrow and they will do the same things. Yeah. And the kids that are afraid to do wickedness, they will continue to do that. So that's the reason. I think we should have a walk around code. Thank you.
Thank you. And gentlemen, time is fast spent, but what I want to say here is, could we see some, can there be some low-hanging fruits, right? And let me tell you what I mean. Like with this administration, we talk of asset recovery, which is huge. But we could start prosecuting the small ones, right? Like the sanction officials, passport scandal, and the different things. That would tell us that, yes, you have the guts to do big things because you start doing the small ones. Or kind of investigate, the inauguration money. Then when it comes to war crime code, since the war, I mean, heinous crimes, but there have been other murders as recent as last year during the elections, the unexplained murders. We saw the other, even though the court said Gloria Mususka is guilty and is now in jail, but you could see, I mean, people will drop and die and say that TV. So could there be other murders that we could be looking at now, even while we wait for the dry dock? Those will serve as like the low-hanging fruits in the meantime. That's my little rant, and I want us to maybe respond and then conclude.
Let me come on first. The establishment of a war crime court will have little or nothing to do with whether your Minister of Justice functions or not. All of what you are saying, all of the instances you are naming, the Minister of Justice and the prosecutorial arm of the government of Liberia can go ahead and prosecute them, investigate, indict people if they are indictable, and prosecute them. Passport scandal can be prosecuted under the laws of Liberia. The mysterious murder, killing that went on, the Minister of Justice can go further. Those cases can be open. They don't have to rest on whether a war crime court is open or not. So it's not whether the Minister of Justice does or not. It doesn't mean that the government is serious. That's a normal statutory duty of the Minister of Justice. So they can carry on those things as well under the laws of Liberia, as well as the war crime court being established. I want to close by saying that, look, Liberians will think that the war crime court is being pushed by America. You may not understand what you're talking about. Crimes that were committed in Liberia, seen by Liberians, even Madam Joa Howard Taylor, who stood here and talked about it. We are so connected that when you start the court, this will happen. Madam Joa Howard Taylor is one of those persons that will go to court and ask for either war crime or economic crime.
Councilor J, 1 second, let me just take the last caller. Okay. There's a guy called David Sassy-Wood. David, go ahead, you're live.
Sassy-Wood.
David.
Yeah.
David, and your name David Gulu, and Gulu that's Zazewu?
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah. Listen, if you listen to the tape, if you listen to Prince Johnson's recording, he said he took a calculated risk, meaning he put his head on the chopping board when he brought a war. Okay, so the war still continues. Now he should bring his head to the war crimes court and let him exonerate himself and let him justify what he did. You see, he can't. I mean, anyone who sees the execution of Samuel Kayendo will immediately convict Prince Johnson of war crimes court. There's no way out. That's why he's always, trying to speak against it. So that risk that he took, it's not over yet until he comes to the War and Economic Crimes Court. He will be found guilty. There's no way out of it. And somebody made a good point. When you say referendum, that's good. Well, who are you going to ask questions? The case that was just born 2000, what can they tell you? They didn't see the war. The war was over before maybe they were born. So that referendum should be a certain group of people, category of Liberians that they will make a determination as to whether the court is necessary or not.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, David, can I come in now?
Let Councillor Jewel just end his thought and then you can come in.
John, I'm saying that a war crime court will come. It will be established in Liberia. Those who are accused will be prosecuted. And so it's just a matter of time. As we speak, the international community could be working with the Liberian government to ensure that all of the framework and modalities are put into place at the end of the day to ensure that people are prosecuted.
Thank you. We're talking about the war crimes court, and somebody said if you're running behind somebody who kill your daughter and rape your wife, and that person died by drowning or by lightning, which one you care? Anthony Freeman.
Yeah, I want to agree with you, Dennis, and by extension, disagree with Councillor that you see there is something we call like momentum. So I believe you build momentum for the rule of law by prosecuting the easily winnable cases, the easily conducted cases. So if you have current, crimes that you can easily get the evidence and prosecute that one. Then you go on to bigger ones, and then you go on to the biggest one, which will be the war crime. So I don't buy into the idea of leaving things that the evidence is out there, and then going, to go. For example, we talk about accountability. Those guys that beat up the UL students, they were never ever held accountable. They are all in Liberia. Grab those people and prosecute them. And you continue on along the line, and then people start getting accustomed to the idea of justice and accountability. On the issue of the war crimes, I think the Liberian people will have to demand a referendum. The reason is that I don't trust the politicians, especially the Liberian Senate. I don't trust them. I believe too many of them are engaging with accused of war and economic crime, and so they are very unlikely to welcome that idea. And the Senate must pass on this bill in order for it to be established. I also don't trust the president. I feel his 6 years of dancing with Ure and his 6 months of dancing with PYJ, I feel he's compromised, and he is very unlikely he's just playing politics when it comes to war crime. I also feel that the war crime court doesn't contribute to instability because it's being held in Bosnia, it's being held in Rwanda, Cambodia, Germany, and none of those places have ever been destabilized because they held trials. So I think the one way for the Liberian people to seize that power back from the politicians who will not take action, because mind you, from 2005 to now, that's almost like 20 or more years, the politician cannot seem to agree if they will ever have this court. But if the Liberian people were to vote in a referendum, no politician can stand in the way. So it would be better if the Liberian people demand a referendum and make the decision themselves, as opposed to leaving it to the politicians. Because I think the politicians, they just do it for vote. Once upon a time, Dara Dillon was in favor. When he became political partner to PYJ, he was against it. Once upon a time, and George Weah was in favor. When he became political partner to PYJ,
we'll craft the referendum. We can just avoid them.
Yes, but the people will be involved as opposed to that. So that's why I think the referendum will be very helpful as opposed to trusting the politicians.
The people voted for PYJ, you think they will vote in Nimakande for war crime?
Right.
Yeah, but at the total vote, now one section.
Anthony Jensen, we're closing now. So,
okay. I would differ with Freeman because, like you started saying, Ja. In fact, let me say this first, Ja. I mean, how much simple. I didn't know your father was killed in the war. I'm just hearing that, all right? And these are the situations that we all face. If you were to listen to people in the Liberian society, you're going to hear a lot of sad stories, right? People kill people unnecessarily. Now, someone will come out or call and say, well, why are you discussing the war crime at this time? You are not feeling the pain. I have a friend, this guy, patient. Her father got killed. I mean, people kill people, fighters. Some people grew by themselves. People don't see these things. War crime code doesn't mean that you're going to collect people and just execute them. Let them say why they killed those people, why they committed those crimes. Is there anything wrong to establish a war crime code? No, nothing wrong with that. Right? So the war crime code, all we are concerned about is the framework. For me, I've said that, and the legislators, because that international cooperation and to ensure that the international jurisdiction does not interfere with the local laws, like some of the questions you're asking. What will happen with trials, cases going on with those domestic issues? The specialized court will have nothing to do with these domestic laws or these domestic cases. So all of these things should play a role when people are looking at the establishment of the War Crime Code, so that the international partners themselves, when they are looking at the draft law, they will see that cooperation that will give them good the leeway, so that they can participate in this thing and make it a success. I don't think we all should sit here and believe that the War Crime Code will, even if there will be crisis. If Prince Johnson, for example, I mean, sorry to say how to call people name here, if Prince Johnson or any other person who right, decide to create instability, it's likely, but that's why international partners who have already known the framework would have already discussed the presence of the United Nations or whatever Interpol or whatever group of securities will be in the country. But without a piece of law that will tell Liberians why we're fighting for the War Crime Code, there must be security measures put in place. So that anybody who thinks, look, I will go back in the bush and do whatever I want to do, I prefer to die in the bush. Yes, innocent people will probably die in the process. But the end result is to have a code and set a precedent so that you will have a society, a free society, that everybody can wake up in the morning and say, well, thank God. Accountability is not something that anybody should reject. Deterrent, all right? And the rule of law is just something that we all love, right? So why should we be talking about, let's not do it from the small cases and go to the big cases? We're talking about a specialized code. You have people who are still working for government. Those who committed heinous crime are in public service. Why you think they're going to say, isn't the senators, you're fed up? They will pass a resolution because there will be no referendum when there's no resolution passed by both houses. So why you should not even be condemning those who are there. International partner will not discourage them, will not mob them. It's about softly, you can reach to where you want to go. Total can go anywhere. So they're not going to fight to reach its destination or find its food. So those who are there now elected, they are the one who supposed to pass whatever. If you think referendum is the best way out, you must pass the resolution. The president must sign it. Whether I let Joseph Boakai or not, he has to sign it. Those are the formalities that need to go on before even the referendum will come about. But I wouldn't want to take that route. You have every instrument that gave you the right. The Constitution gave everybody, lawmakers are that branch of government is responsible to create laws.
Thank
So
you.
the framework is on them. The
Thank
cooperation
you.
with the international partner, they can get results. So that Jawu sitting down here is hurt from a childhood. Maybe that time he was a little boy. Today he is living, but why you think you should just live without knowing or having some penalty for those who just got and kill a young man? Now this man maybe look at his own status from childhood up to this time. Do we know what has happened to him? His own stress? He's without a father. He's just one person. But if you listen to many stories in Liberia, you wouldn't want to sit down and say, oh, let it in that bag on me, bag on. Joy is saying this thing because perhaps our family is in tight.
Thank you.
Definitely.
Thank you. Dr. Bully needs to go to bed now. It's 2 o'clock in the UK.
No, it's almost 1:30. It's fine. I've
Yeah.
enjoyed my time.
They say if the witch crying kill your baby here, then you say witch doesn't exist.
Right.
So,
So it just
Bully.
one of us, right?
Right. No. I think anyone who thinks that the war affected them alone is being disingenuous, right? Because there is nobody in Liberia. Prince Johnson lost people in Liberia. Charles Taylor's father were killed in Lutheran Church. Samuel Doe lost people in Liberia. Roosevelt, everybody, even the ones that were killing, lost people in Liberia. Every Liberian will tell you stories of losing someone, right? Whether it be a friend or a family member. So that there is no one whose
More
loss
victim.
of family, is more important than the other person. We all lost people that we loved, right? I lost uncles, I lost cousins, aunties, during the war. Yes, it might not be my dad or my mom, but they're still relatives and loved ones of mine. So we need to establish that first. And nobody is saying that people shouldn't pay for crimes that were committed. I'm not against, and like I said in my article, I'm not against, and I've always said on the show, I'm not against the establishment of a war crimes court. All I care about is that when we do things in our country, that we do them the right way. We have a constitution that is the supreme document when it comes to laws in Liberia. It states very clearly that there is no law or statute that can be created that can be ex post facto, right? That means it cannot go back and punish you for something that you committed. It's easy for us to deal with the issues that were done during the civil war in Liberia. Everyone on this panel, especially the lawyers, have made it very clear that we already have penal laws that can deal with murder, can deal with rape. Now, people can say, oh, well, but there's statutes of limitations. Well, unfortunately, we elected leaders who sat down on the process, wasted time, that the statute of limitations had expired. You can't blame, you blame those leaders for doing that. When we ended the war, we had a choice. We go to war crimes court, or not court, but punish the crimes that were committed, or we do the TRC. We opted for the Truth and Reconciliation. The whole spirit of the TRC Act is so that people tell the truth. Do you think that Prince Johnson and all of the people who told the truth knew or were told?
He didn't tell the truth.
No. Well, he told the truth as far as he said. He one day he said, "I will tell the truth," and what we said is his truth. So you didn't. Let me. You didn't interrupt any of the other speakers. So let me.
No, I just want to correct that before I start.
It's called Truth and Reconciliation.
A lot of those people didn't tell the truth, and that's why.
Well, again, I'm going to say that they told the truth. They said they were telling the truth. That's their truth to tell. I was not with them when they did the crimes. They said that that's their truth. That's their truth. He told the truth. If he knew that those truths would then be used against him in a court of law, he wouldn't have told the truths that he told. Right? I believe, again, please let me. I didn't interrupt anyone, so let me finish. And then I didn't up 1:30.
But he said they told their truth.
That's
So
their truth. They asked them to tell the truth. They told their truth, right? That's their truth, right?
Like the alternative fact. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, whatever you want to call it. If you allow me to make my point, whatever you want to call it, right? You can call it after. The fact of the matter is, we have instruments already that we can use to go after whomever we think we need to go after and punish them for whatever crimes we think that they've committed. I believe setting up a task force at the Ministry of Justice to look into crimes that were committed that violated our current laws will be a good starting point. I agree with Anthony Jensen. The low fruit, hanging fruit thing doesn't work for me. If someone killed, let him be tried for murder. If someone raped, and we can still try them, try them for rape. We have the Justice Ministry set up a task force to look into crimes that were committed, get witnesses, take these to the court, try them under the current law, right, that we have. There's no need to establish a court that is going to be inconsistent with our Constitution.
Thank you. Today was a Decoration Day in Liberia, and so on behalf of Focus on Liberia, we say yes, people that lost victims and cleaning the graves, and I mean the graves, Pine Grove Cemetery, man, when they went there. But yeah, so we wish all those who are celebrating, even though it's a sad day, but I want to celebrate with you on Decoration Day. Mr. C.
And I mean, I'm sitting here and so saddened and disappointed. The international community people should not be trusted. To even be depending on them now for our leaders to act, it's very disappointing. There are some Liberian citizens who participated in the war. In France, leaders in our country holding them accountable. The Liberians themselves, who actually were directly impacted by the war, like they kill your father or so. What are you waiting for to go and file a lawsuit out of court in Liberia? What are you waiting for? There are people whose parents got killed and they have full knowledge of who did the killing. None of them have taken any of such cases to court in Liberia. You killed my father, and I'm aware. Maybe I'm speaking out of ignorance here, right?
Statute of limitation.
Then we'll go to the court. Then let the court tell me, say, no, this person cannot be prosecuted because they killed your father some 15 years ago.
Mr. Sear, a criminal case in Liberia is prosecuted by the government of Liberia. It's not a private issue. The Minister of Justice must agree to go to court. So those people who are not going to court, if you had a political system that did not agree, why would the Minister of Justice agree for indictment? So they have no way out unless a war crime court come after them.
But I agree with him. You can attempt. It's possible some prosecutor may agree. It's possible. There are 15 countries that
let me conclude. We have to close here. Let me conclude. You all spoke. The whole issue of referendum, I disagree with it. It's a waste of time. There's an act that created the LACC. Who created that law? The legislature created that law. The law makers know that they should declare their asset before taking office, even those of them who are lawmakers. They violated. So if we pass a law through referendum, we are creating a law to be binding on us. So it must be a referendum before it's respected. It's because that's why you're basically saying that when it's a referendum, it will be respected. I disagree with that. Laws are laws irrespective of who created them or how they are created. They are laws and they are meant to be respected. So a referendum will be a waste of time. Let those leaders act for once. The instrument that the resolution that passed, I don't trust any of our leaders. All our leaders are not serious when it comes to war and economic crimes code. None, not one. If they say it, they are bluffing. All right? If they say it, they are bluffing, they are joking. Then they mention people who got killed just the election time. What is stopping this government from going after those individuals? The student Walter Susulu in front of U.S. Embassy were brutalized by what you call them, seditions. Those who support TDC. We know those people. The police headquarters, the police called those people for questioning. They nearly killed that young man. We have free people in that place, and we have leaders who are expecting that when they bring war.
The guy who plowed his car in the UP headquarters. We don't know.
The guy who plowed his car in the UP headquarters.
Yep.
Where is that case? So let me tell you something. Our leaders are disappointed. They are complete disappointment to us. Even the international community people you were talking about it, they are Americans. No one should listen to those people. They are bluffing. They are joking. They are playing games with us. Only our leaders should act right now for them to bring war crimes code. If you made me president right now, I will grab Prince Johnson on day one. On day one, I will grab him.
You gotta use the law.
There must be a framework. I mean, those are.
They're not serious.
Censoring will not be the law. I mean, that's not a procedure.
I told you we're wrapping up, but it seems like we're starting the conversation.
Yeah. So there's this question. Oh, we all lost people. Let's leave it. Well, this is not left with victims.
Yes.
If you commit a crime, you get punished. So it's not with us. But gentlemen, thank you so much for tonight. And I want to thank our viewers, those who watch, those who are watching, and those who watch now. Join me tomorrow at 7:30 for Tough Talking Thursday, and we're going to be even tougher on the issues.
Thank you, Max. Hey, Dr. Booty, nice meeting you.
Oh, no, same here.
Right.
Nice
We
meeting
close
you.
with our song that says, "We are all Liberians."
We are Liberians.